Our European Affairs editor, Catherine Nicholson, is here in the studio to help us understand the political implications of this crisis. Catherine, it does seem like despite the threats from Lukashenko, the European Union is going to impose new sanctions on Belarus. What more can you tell us about that?
Yeah, new sanctions, and as soon as next week, in fact. There are already EU sanctions in place on Belarus and have been since the contested election in August 2020. Indeed, Belarus very much seen with this migrant situation as hitting back against those sanctions from the European Union. My team spoke to the head of foreign policy for the European Union, Josep Borrell. He told us what is going to be happening next.
Monday, the Foreign Affairs Council will take a decision affecting more than 30 Belarusian people, authorities, sanctioning them and enlarging the legal framework to sanction not only Belarusian people, but the airlines that are transporting these people, cheating them and sending them against the borders of Europe. We expect that the sanctions have an effect. If I forbid you to travel, if I take your assets in Europe, if you have, and I froze them, I suppose you will be into the state on changing your behavior in order to get rid of these sanctions.
Josep Borrell speaking to us at the Paris Peace Forum, in fact, yesterday. Now, this is a fifth package of sanctions against Belarus from the EU, as Josep Borrell was talking about. As you said, we heard the Belarusian president threatening to cut off gas supplies into Europe. But I have to point out that Belarus doesn't actually produce this gas. It hosts a transport pipeline that comes from Russia. One arm of it does go directly into Poland, another arm goes into Ukraine, and from there on into EU countries. But as you said, right now it seems that Russia's president is not in favour of this, and it does seem that ultimately it would be more his decision than President Lukashenko's.
Now, in the middle of all this political back and forth, we can't forget that there are thousands of migrants, of people stuck in this border area, outside, camping. 10 people at least have died, including children. Is there any movement on as far as resolving their situation?
Well, indeed, they are very much still there, and it seems that these people are still trying to cross the Belarusian border into EU states. On Thursday, a private Polish broadcaster reported that two groups were prevented from making that crossing from Belarus into Poland. Belarus has borders with 3 EU states, Poland, Lithuania and Latvia. All 3 have declared states of emergency inside their own parliaments in relation to this situation. And Lithuania has actually begun building a solid wall on its border, the first EU country to do so. Now, this is all very much a reminder that there is no EU policy on migration that all the member states have signed up to. The European Commission did put a plan on the table more than a year ago, but the member states still haven't signed up to it. It's up to the heads of each government and head of state for each country to do that. This is one of the reasons, in fact, why there is a degree of chaos in Belarus and why Belarus is able to put pressure on the EU in this way. Poland, for example, has long been pressuring the EU to pay for walls on the EU's borders. And there's been a lot of resistance to this for various reasons, including financial, but also in terms of the EU's values. Poland and 11 other states have now signed an open letter calling for this from the European Commission. And for the first time, the head of the European Council, Charles Michel, has indicated this week that it could now actually be an option. It could be something that could be discussed. He said at a press conference with Poland's Prime Minister that it is legally possible. It's a very interesting position for the European institutions, of course, because Poland's in hot water with the Commission and the Parliament over rule of law degradations. But it is currently getting support, for example, from the biggest faction in the European Parliament, the centre-right European People's Party. And so I don't know if this is going to answer your question about what happens in terms of the actual migrants inside Belarus, but it's a sign that the EU is realising that its lack of a migration policy is causing these problems. And as you say, all the while, agencies, outside agencies, the World Health Organization, for example, today saying something has to happen in terms of these people's well-being and their lives.
European Affairs editor Catherine Nicholson, thank you so much for that update on the crisis.